right. So I was thinking today that I might do some textured lines and effects that I don't know that people are used to. But if you're actively here, is there something you wanted to cover?
Well, we are brand new. We actually have our first workshop with the Glowforge at our makerspace this Saturday, but we don't know anything about designing for it. So that's going to teach us the nuts and bolts about using it.
Okay.
And we're eager to learn about designing. Both of us have some art background, but we've never designed for laser before. So really, whatever you were planning is fine. We'll just kind of absorb what we can based on where we are in the learning curve. If there's something you think would be more helpful with newbies, that would be good too.
If you're new to laser, are you new to design in general? Or are you used to
I'm not. I used to be a graphic designer, but way, 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 way back in the day, like in the mid 90s. And then I do a lot of just quick and dirty stuff with Canva these days. And you do design stuff too, but not that much.
Only
online.
on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an analog guy. Or has been in the past.
my husband to no end because I use the computer, I do digital design and everything, but I have sketchbooks and I always have like lists on paper. And like, why don't you use your phone for the list? And I said, nope, I need to write it. I said, not only that, but scientifically speaking, if you write something down, you're more likely to remember it.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
There's some ammo out there for staying analog.
That's right.
Okay, well let's do some beginner stuff then. I'm not sure. I haven't used Canva, so I'm not sure that the tools will translate specifically as far as the names of them, but I think so.
Okay.
You're gonna probably be using shape tools. We're gonna use some text, stuff like that. So I'm sure you can kind of say.
That's similar. I've used Publisher a lot too, and PageMaker back in the day. What do you usually use to design?
I use Illustrator.
Okay, I have used Illustrator a little bit, but it's versions and versions ago.
Yeah,
in a while.
Yeah, no, I started out, you were saying mid 90s. I started out on Photoshop 4 on like 16 the small floppy disks.
You probably use that. You used to do a lot of
Photoshop, but I don't remember what version that was.
Yeah.
Or which one I started.
But it was a while ago on floppy.
Or
was it
No,
CD?
it was not a floppy, it wasn't CD.
Okay.
Okay, so give me an idea of what you want to make. Like, do you want to make ornaments? Do you want to make something that's useful as like business card holder? Like, what are you thinking of? What's a good thing to start off with?
I would say that the interests are pretty varied. I've thought about doing some like photo tiles. Were those your photo tiles that were posted in the group, or were those? No, I think that was somebody else. She is doing a lot of photo tiles and selling them in her Etsy shop. And then Marcus has got a drawing.
Yeah. My interest is, this is, wait a minute, I hope you can see that. Is that shown? Very faintly? There is here, this part here is supposed to be a ring made out of brass sheet metal, like 1.5 millimeters thick approximately. Can you see it approximately?
I can see it looks like a tall rounded rectangle.
Yeah, with a cutout that's rounded.
Right, and then a circle on the bottom with some dashed lines.
No, forget about that circle. That is the routing of the wood underneath.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an electric guitar, and this is supposed to be the pickup ring that wraps around the pickup to mount it. So this kind of stuff is what I'm interested in.
Well, you won't be able to do brass with the laser. The
Not at all?
you have to get a fiber laser, or you want to get a CO2, like 130 watt CO2 that's actually specifically made for cutting laser, for cutting metal. Or you'll want to do something, you know, like I said, fiber, you want to do water, water jet, or plasma even. So the metal cutting is kind of a different area. This main big CO2 lasers that you're seeing, that everyone has in all the groups, and the Glowforge itself is CO2 lasers that can cut wood, MDF, which is composite, and then you can use a spray like Surmark or Brilliance, and you can permanently mark it with whatever design you're looking for. In rare cases, you could, you know, no, I actually don't think you can really do anything with metal at all. I was thinking you might be able to dent it a little, but I don't think so. So, I mean, that's actually one of the things I've really been looking into, is because I want to do metal jewelry. So I want to kind of translate that over. And yeah, I've been looking at all the options, and right now I think I'm going to go with punches. So there's that option as well. With a brass plate, is you could design it, and then you could actually do something where you like put a pattern on it, and then you could mark it with the lines with the laser, and then go in with your saw, in, you know, a jeweler's saw, and actually cut out those rounds because they're marked, and you'd be able to do it that way. So, you know, there's workarounds.
The design part, is that different depending on what kind of laser cutter I'm using, or?
No.
So yeah, so that's fine.
Once you're learning the design for it, then that'll translate across. So yeah, so even the files can be used. Like for example, you know, if you have a lower watt laser to a higher watt laser, it doesn't matter. You know, if it's a small bed to a large bed, doesn't matter. If you're making a file that you're going to have somebody else cut out of metal for you, which there are services that will do that, same thing. You just send them and say, okay, you know, make sure you check with them and make sure that everything's translating 1-to-1 for inches, and then otherwise you're good to go.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so, and I can make a shape like you're looking for, and I can show you how easy it is to make that shape. Yeah, and you'll be like, oh, why didn't I think of that? So all right, so let's get to it. Let me change over, and I'll share my screen to Illustrator, and let me see, we'll start a new file. And usually what I do, just so you guys know, is I use a 10.8 by 19.2, because that's going to be the standard for a Glowforge, and that's also approximately within the framing of using any of the 12 by 20 material that you can buy from laser suppliers. So for example, I have the Glowforge, which is the 12 by 20. And then I also have a Thunder laser, which I can fit half of a full sheet of plywood in. So I can do like 4 foot by 3 foot or something, like directly into it, or something along those lines. So I still just design in this because it's a nice, easy way for me to translate, especially if I'm going to be sharing or selling files over to other people. So, you know, remember, if you have a lot of ideas in your head, once you get to know how to make them, test them, and then, you know, if you're interested in it, file sales are a way to, you know, kind of have a little bit of income coming back from it. So that feeds your hobby there.
There you go. Do you have a file store?
I do. I do. My file store is GK Design House, HAUS on Etsy. Okay, so you guys are doing this shape. I'm just gonna roughly pull this out here. So this is about 2 by 5. And then we're gonna come back at, and I'm just using the shape tool here. So if you look in the menu, there's some basic tools that they just put there for you. And I have the rectangle, and now I'm gonna go to the circle. And this is the center right here of, well, that's the center of this piece. So we're gonna pull from that for the circle. So first, actually, I'm gonna deselect that. And I'm gonna come back over to the circle, and I'm gonna roughly, there's the center. So I'm going to grab this, I'm gonna hold Alt so that it's actually coming from the center. And I'm gonna hold Shift, which will constrain it to a perfect circle. And I'm going to do that, which is the top of your shape. And I'm gonna, oops, I hate this. It actually fills it automatically, and I really can't stand it. I like empty shapes, because then you can grab them like that. And then now what I'm gonna do is I'm still using the black arrow, I like to call it. It's the V arrow, or it's a selection tool in Illustrator. So it's just an easy way to remember it. It's the V arrow, or it's the black arrow. And then there's also the white arrow, which is the A arrow. And this is a direct selection. So the big difference between the two is the V will select this whole piece. Whereas when you use the A, the white arrow, and you come in here and you select right there, you're only selecting this curve. You're not selecting anything else. So you can see if I can delete it, then that's the only thing I was selecting, not the whole thing. So kind of a rough idea there for you. And we're going to take this, I'm going to hold Alt, which is going to duplicate. You can see the double arrow there now. And we're going to drag this all the way down until we get to the center down here. So now, looks kind of like your shape, I think, unless I got something wrong.
No. No, it's okay.
Okay. So now we're going to select all of these together, since they're all full shapes, and you basically want to make it that outline that you showed me. We're going to come over to the Pathfinder window, which all of this stuff up here on my menus is available in Windows. So you can see I can come over here and I can go down to Pathfinder and it'll pop it out. Or it's those same tools there. I already have docked into this sidebar because I know I use them a lot. So we'll get into the docking and the moving and the stuff later. But right now, what you want to do is unite all 3 of these pieces so it forms one shape. So we click that, and now we have your shape that you were looking at. I think yours is a little wider than what I made.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not working right now.
So I'm just gonna pull it like this a bit. I'll pull it up too. I think we'll lose that roundness. So there, I think that's still within within margins. Okay. I think you had a circle down here. Was a small
yeah, much smaller. The circle you saw, that was the wood routing underneath. So basically it just needs a hole for a volume control to come through. And then on the top, elongated, basically the same shape, just smaller, where the pickup goes in.
Here, let me pull my window over here and I'm gonna see. Can you hold it up to me again?
See, that shows.
Okay, so is that a screw hole at the top?
On the very top is a screw hole, then there is the opening for the pickup, and then on the bottom,
Okay.
where the routing hole is, that's where just a drilled like a 1/4 inch hole, and then on the very bottom another screw hole.
Screw hole, okay. So the screw hole is probably approximately 1/10 of an inch.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so let's pull this out. I've got the same thing. It's the circle tool again. I'm holding Alt and Shift again to constrain it to a perfect circle. And when I pull out, you can see it gives me numbers. So if you
Mhm.
look, you can see I'm already at 0.15. 1/10 of an inch would be 0.10, yeah? That looks pretty small. Mm. 0.12 is 1/8 of an inch. All right, I can just dial this in here. Once you have it selected, if you look up over here, you can see the transform window. And it's the same thing. You can look down here in the window list and transform is listed right there. So you can see you either pull it out or it's still right here. And in the transform, you can tell it exactly how big you want it. Right now, I have it to constrain. So it'll keep both the width and the height the same as I type it in. So if we want to go for 0.10 and hit tab, then it'll do it both. That looks pretty tiny to me though. Are you
Well,
let me look here. I'm at
no, it's probably too small, yeah.
100% here. So let's make it more like
Maybe
my Illustrator.
well, actually, it probably is 1/8 of an inch the hole, but then you usually you drill in a bigger hole on the top so that the screw sinks in a little bit. The screw head, so you can leave the hole as is for that.
Okay.
There's rather tiny screw actually.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull it up since it was up higher on your diagram.
Okay.
I'm gonna select all 3 of these and make sure that they're all centered. There, and then now this is a fun one. I'm gonna draw down from the ruler right here. You'll see that I can draw down a guide. And this I'm gonna pull down to the center. So that'll help me now. I can come to this piece, since we know we have it in top and bottom. We're gonna come over here to the rotate or flip. If you notice, I hold it down. Instead of rotate, you can go to reflect, which is basically flipping it. If I go to reflect, I have that selected. I'm gonna come down here to this center and I'm gonna hold Alt, and that tells it where the center is that I want it to use for this. So I'm going to do that. And instead of vertical, which would flip it this way or that way, we're gonna go horizontal, and you can see it goes down here in exactly the same spot. And then I'll copy. And now we have 2 holes.
Cool.
So it's time savers, right? So this guy, actually, this looked a little bit bigger.
No, you gotta go smaller.
Smaller?
Yeah, the bigger one you saw is the routed opening in the wood underneath this piece.
Okay, so
Yeah, it only needs to be a 1/4 inch.
oh, a 1/4 inch? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna come back over here and we're gonna type in, and that's a 1/4 inch.
Does that look right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just for the shaft of the potentiometer.
I thought the same thing you thought. I saw the larger circle in the middle, but I guess it's part of the guitar and not part of the plate.
Right, that's underneath. It's the wood cut out underneath. So
Okay, so then you had, I'm gonna pull this out some. Oops, I guess I didn't get quite centered. You had something that was just barely leaving the margin, about like that.
right.
And that pulled down to a shape down at the bottom, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so was it rounded on the bottom?
Yeah, the same kind of shape as the overall thing, just
Mm-hmm.
off center and
Okay,
slightly smaller.
so I'm gonna pull it down and you say when to stop. So I'm gonna hold Alt again. And that'll let us copy. I'm gonna hold Shift right now, and this will actually constrain it up or down. So you
Okay.
can,
Ah,
it'll move around, but it really wants to go this way. So is that far enough?
that's a little bit higher. There you go.
Okay, and then these are connected again, right?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so then we're just gonna come over here and grab our rectangle tool. We're gonna come up to one side, go over to the other side. Make sure we don't have it over. Yeah, I had it overlapping just a little there. There. And we're gonna do the same thing with these guys as we did before. So that's gonna be a unite.
Perfect.
Is that looking good?
Yeah,
Okay, is there more to add?
no, that's the whole piece.
Is that it?
It's quite unspectacular.
All right, let me save this for you. Let's see, save as. And then I will send it to you if you direct message me your email address on Facebook. And here, I'm gonna save this into my. Everything's running a little slow, even though I just rebooted. No. There. Okay. Low forward. And oh. All right. I have one of my cats in the background, don't mind. They're both yelling, I think. Okay, you were, I know it's Stephanie and Claude.
Marcus.
Marcus, why was I thinking the same name? I don't know. Okay, Marcus, this one's for you. I'm gonna save it out. And this is gonna be what, guitar plate?
Mm-hmm.
And then I will let you take a look at it in your program and you can see, actually, you know what? I need to save it as an SVG for you guys. Okay, and here, SVG. And save. There. So now what do we want to make? Do you want to make a pair of earrings, Stephanie?
Sure.
All right.
That sounds fun.
I'm doing a bunch of earring shapes yesterday, so I'm on a roll. Open. Oops, no, I don't want to open. I want new. I love doing this. I find something that I like, some stuff, and then I'll just have that off to the side as I'm designing my shapes.
Yeah, that's an inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Just me messing around and making shapes yesterday for about.
Cool.
So, let's see. Do you like hoops? What do you like?
I do like hoops, and I like any kind of elongated, you know, drop shape too.
Okay, so let's do something for you that I haven't made yet. So I'm gonna go to new here. And this will be just for you. So the first thing that I like to do is I make a hole for the earrings that's about 0.15, I think. So let me make that and then we'll see if I think I'm right. I'm at 77, so I think that might be a little small. Let me double check what I did over here. These guys are 0.19. Yeah, so just a little bit different. We'll just go to 0.20. That'll make it easy.
When you actually create your earrings in the Glowforge, do you usually use wood or do you usually use some other material?
Oh no, actually, everything so far has been either MDF or wood plywood. I'll do, you know, various plywoods, where you're doing like the cherry, maple, walnut, I do white oak, aromatic cedar, mahogany, sapele. There's another dark wood in there somewhere that I'm forgetting. So yeah, and then for the MDF, it's a composite material of basically wood shavings. So
Right.
you can use it. It's super light, just like the plywoods are. And I'll paint it first, and then I cut it out with a laser. So I do metallics are really fun. So I've got like a great metallic a copper, a purple, the teal, you know, stuff that you'll just paint it out first and then cut it out, and then you have it. And in fact, let me find I don't want to do that. I was gonna pull up Chrome to show you something, but I'll just pull up
Does it cut plexiglass, thin sheets of plexiglass?
it'll cut and engrave. So I actually have some earrings that I'll show you in a second. I'm pulling the thing up so I can just pull up my shop. And then that way I have some pictures that I can easily show you versus.
Cool.
Okay. Here, let me go to new share. And that's gonna be my shop. Let's see if this works. Do you guys see the shop now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me find my earrings. There. Okay, so here's an example that you can see the photo on. It's an engraved acrylic.
Oh, that's lovely.
Cut and engraved on it, and I do a 3-pass engrave so that it adds depth to this on this one. So, you know, there's a lot of things you can do with that, where you do like double up on one thing, like, you know, double up on the or add this on a separate pass. Let me go back. I don't need this. Your pictures are in a little small window for me. What was I gonna show you? Oh, this is acrylic as well. So this is a neon acrylic. And you can see it's just cut out of it. And the light actually, because a neon acrylic captures light, that's all just from the neon doing its thing.
Wow, that's really pretty.
Thank you.
Cute kitties.
This is a regular acrylic, transparent acrylic. And so you can see the 3D one I did, where it's so what was I looking for? I was looking for metallics. Let me see if I've got those here. Yes, this one. This one is a kind of a spring green metallic that I so you can see that it's got a nice shine to it, but you don't actually have to go back and clean anything up because it was painted beforehand. So there's not any scorch marks or anything on it because you can wipe it off with a damp paper towel. So anything that's got a finish, like any of the wood ones, like these, for example, you go in, if you get any of that, you know, I call it drift. It's like a burnt glue that kind of covers the edge of where it's been cut. Then you can just go in with a wet paper towel and clean it off, and it's just fine.
Nice.
So, okay, let's go back to Illustrator. Let me see this here, new share, Illustrator. Okay, so now you guys should see a lone little hole on the screen. And you said you like hoops, so we're gonna come up here. And I've got the circle tool again. So we're using the heck out of the circle tool this time. And I'm going to, oops, constrain that. I'm gonna give you 2.5 inches. Do you like learning big?
2.5 is good.
Okay, so yeah, my husband's always arguing with me. Women don't actually wear those that big. He wants it like 1 inch for everything. I said they wear them.
I used to have some that were about 3.5 back in the 80s.
Oh, God.
That's when he met me. I wore some bigger earrings than I wear now. He's actually we don't need a hole for hoops like this then, so I'm gonna put that to this side. We'll get to another one in a second. Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can do hoops. One of them is you can make it equidistant all the way around, and add something of a design to it. So in that case, there's a really simple tool that you can go in and you can tell it to offset the path that you already have. So this one then has the main circle. And since we like the outside edge, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in some inside the earring. So I'm going over to object, which you'll do a ton of work in object because all you're using is objects, unless you're using paths, and then you go to object anyway, because you go to object path. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to offset path. And right now you can see it's a positive number, so it's actually offsetting outside what we have. But we don't want that. What we're gonna do is we're going to say negative so that we get inside. And I'm thinking I'm gonna go, let's go 1/4 inch and see what that looks like.
Nice.
Okay, so that looks pretty good, I think. All right, now this one, what I like to do with hoops is I like to just give it a little bit of easy space to drop a jump ring in. So I like to do a 5mm jump ring, which is basically a 1/4 inch. It's a little bit shy, it's like 0.2. So I feel like that's gonna be tight here. You could opt to do a 6 or a 7mm just to kind of, you know, get over it. Or one of the fun things is instead of making a perfect circle, then just grab this and move this up a touch.
Oh, nice.
There. All of a sudden that feels a little classier too, doesn't it? It's got attitude to it.
It does indeed.
What's that?
I said it does indeed.
Yeah, and it's fun with it. I mean, you can actually go in and like we talked about before, if you use the black arrow, it selects the whole thing. If you use the white arrow, it only selects one part. So in this case, you can see there's white. White is not selected. Filled is selected. And I could just grab this and I could even add a little more like that if we wanted. So I'm not going for that right now though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like Friday.
He said it looks like a fried egg when you elongated it.
Well, it looks like, you know what? It actually looks like a boiled egg cut in half, like for double eggs. The fried egg kind of gets all over the place. Okay, so
food everywhere.
Yes, exactly. So you said you like things that dangle too. How much of a jewelry person you are? Are you fine with working with jump rings?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do then is we'll come over here, we'll take this guy, it doesn't need to be quite as big because now we're just getting the whole, like the wire of the jump ring through. So I'm going to change that from 0.2 to 0.12, which is 1/8 of an inch. And there, we'll have a hole for that. And let's go ahead and zoom in. And I'm going to place this actually a little bit closer down here. So you want just enough spacer here. You can get a nice jump ring through, but not tight enough that you're not going to have a nice piece for the structure of the whole earring itself. Excuse me. I'm going to go with 3 right now of this size. And we're going to do about like that. To make sure that this guy is centered. No, see, it wasn't. I'm gonna pull this guy up some. And then I'm gonna take this guy and I'm gonna go to our flip. I'm gonna hold Alt down. I'm gonna pick the top of this circle as the center. And we're gonna go vertical across and copy. And there you have 3 holes to do some sort of a dangle.
Nice.
You could do a metal dangle, you could do a dangle with another wood piece. So
Mhm.
let's finish doing what we're gonna do here as far as like what you'd like to have on the circle, and then we'll get to the dangles. So
Okay.
oh wait, you said a teardrop too, didn't you?
Yeah, I like those too.
So I'll finish up with this one soon and then we'll get to the teardrop. One of the things I like to do is just make random patterns on stuff.
Mhm.
With this one, you don't even have to do where you punch out a pattern. You can just do a pattern on this. So I'm saying, since we have so many circles, let's do something with straight lines. And we can use the pen tool for that. And the pen tool, there's a line tool as well. I like the pen tool just because I'm used to using it. And I think it gives you a little bit more control, especially when you want to start going into Bezier curves. So I just use the pen tool all the time. Pen tool is P on the keyboard, so it's pretty easy to remember. Now I'm going to look at this guy again close up, and I'm going to say, you know what? I think we should have something that feels like it's kind of just a pattern of lines. I just did something like this for what's going to go onto earrings in my shop, so you guys will be able to see kind of a sneak peek of it there. And then now we're going to go down. And all I'm doing in between making the lines, because you see it kind of wants to make a whole shape, is
Mhm.
I'm hitting P again. So
Oh,
that,
to turn it off, yeah.
yeah, it resets it. So there, let's see, are we back to these again? No, let's do some straight stuff this way. And so you can see that you don't actually have to have anything in mind. You can just start making,
Random.
yeah, and so,
Mhm.
you make something, and once you make enough of it, then you can just copy it over to the next side.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's say we're gonna go down to here. That looks pretty good. That's about so now what we're gonna do, and this is the easy part that I always do, is I don't try to just select them all by themselves, is I'll just select this whole thing and then I'll deselect the big circles. And now we're gonna go back to our handy dandy flip tool, and we're gonna hold Alt again, go back to the center of that circle and copy.
Cool.
And there you have a fun kind of 80s earring, I would say.
That is fun.
So, but it's fun, and it has, you can drop anything you want. You can drop a stone down here, you can drop another piece of wood. So say for example, you had you wanted to do a couple of rectangles that matched this. One of the things I like is I'll do a rectangle. That's a lot of, okay, we'll do a rectangle that size so it matches the width. Let's pull this down. And what I'll do is I'll go in and either from the top or the bottom, I'll grab one side. Let's do the top on this one. And I'm going to drag it in. You see it's got measurements there. And now it's telling me how far I'm dragging it. So on this case, I'll drag it in by 0.02. And I come to this side, which is still straight, and I drag it in by 0.02. So we get a little bit of an angle there. That's not a whole lot, but then we're also looking at the fact that we don't have room for the hole really, because I made it a bit too tight. So that's my mistake. Let's make this whole thing just a little bigger. And we can probably put a smaller hole in there because I can't remember what's the wire that you normally work with, the 24 gauge.
I think, yeah, I think I've used even smaller too.
So there, we'll come up here, we'll say, you know what, we like that little section there. We'll copy it, just Command C, just like you normally do. Paste, Command V. Control V, you know, whichever you're working on. I'm on a PC right now, so I should say Control. And then let's come over here and say, you know what, that looks pretty nice. That gives us a nice divider in the earring itself. And we're not really using these guys. So we're going to take the end of this one and drag it up. You can see we're keeping, it'll tell you line extension. You see that blue pop up? At the same, I'm sorry, blue. The pink pop up, that's at the same angle as what you started with. So if you're worried that you've moved your line somehow, then you'll just wait until you see that there. So there, we can go all the way to the edge. And you might say, Jen, but I don't want to cut these lines into my earring. I just want to engrave them. And also, that is a good point, Stephanie. Why didn't I think of that? So once I drag all these to where I want them, I'm gonna pull this down. That looks pretty. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, then what I'm gonna show you is that these are the things. This is how I do it. I use different colors that will define themselves in the UI for the Glowforge for the different actions that you take. So first of all, these are our cut holes that we're doing for the main earring body. I like to use red as my cut line. So anytime you get a file from me, if I make a file for you for editor request, or obviously like this, I'm making the file for you for this session, then it'll be color coded like this.
Gotcha.
I do red for cuts, I do pink for engraves, and I do green for scores. And that's pretty much, you know, unless you have like 2 layers that you want to do separately, I'll do like a cyan. Otherwise, those are the 3 that I do.
Gotcha.
And you'll probably say, but Jen, it's RGB. And I'll say, yeah, I know. Okay, so let's go to our magenta.
That's what I grew up on.
The what?
I said that's the system I grew up with.
Yeah. Well, see, I worked in digital design. I didn't work in print. So print and RGB is digital. So it's one of those things that it's like you can show your history just by what color set you're used to. So now here's a fun thing is that once I've set the colors for this, I can come in and we can say, okay, yeah, these are going to be holes that we're going to cut. So now instead of black, we want them to be this red. The fun thing about this, I don't know if it's fun to everyone, it is to me. If you hit the I key, you get the eyedropper. So we have these selected, we hit the I key for the eyedropper, and then now you select that piece, and it has now turned them red. Because it will change them to the fill and stroke that you have for your sample piece.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice to be able to do that. And then you come down here, just like that. I keep going back to the V arrow, come down here, and I'm going to just like that out and make that an engrave. So there you go. You have the cut areas of your earring, and then you have the piece that'll dangle and your engraves on both.
That's pretty speedy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've been talking, it's been about an hour. So I'm gonna do the teardrop for you in just a second, and then that'll fill the time. But yeah, you know, it's like I tell people is I spend an hour doing something, and right now, because I'm explaining it to you in each of the steps, then it actually is taking me longer than it would if I was just going through and you know, it's kind of like the other ones that I showed you is you start riffing on a style. You say, okay, I'm going to start with a circle. I'm going to add, there's your fried egg there. And then I'm going to add this, and then I'm going to do the circle and like, kind of like the shape that I made for you, Stephanie, but I decided to make it a smaller. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to make a more interesting cutout shape. I'm going to make an egg out of this, a teardrop. There's the reverse, like here's a teardrop, there's a reverse teardrop. You know, just you can just get going and thinking about it. And in this case, for example, I'm not done with them, but I've actually gone in and added a blue line, and that's going to be the margin for any pattern that I print on these if I want to have clear wood on the edge of it. So you just use lines that you know what they stand for, and then come back in and work with them, then you know, oh, okay, here's my shape, the cut shape, and then this blue is going to be what I can use if I don't want the pattern to go all the way to the edge. Because here we went all the way to the edge. So if we wanted to, we could have kind of cut in a little bit and left a margin there. All right, and your teardrop is actually pretty simple. We're going to harken back to Marcus's, wrong tool, guitar piece here, because we're going to start with a circle. And since you like big circles, we're going to go with one. Let's go to, I don't know what 2 inch, that could end up being a bit long. Let's go to 1.5. It's about 1.5. Come up here and fix it. 1.5. I think that looks like a good shape. And then we're going to come up to the rectangle. We're going to say, okay, you know what? This is 1.5 inches. We probably want it to be a 3-inch drop. And so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say I want, excuse me, something that's 1.5 by 3 inches. Oh, that doesn't look like I typed it correctly at all. 0.15. That's a difference.
There we go.
It made it 30 inches because it's scaled together. All right, let's try this again. Okay, so we are going to make a rectangle that is 1.5 by 3. There. So this is kind of our guide. This is going to be up to, actually I should just pull this. That'll make it go faster. There. And since that's a guide, I'm going to color this something that I'm not going to use at all for anything else. So I'm going to go with cyan. Okay, so you want a teardrop. And probably let's come in at a 1/2 inch at the ear wire. So we're going to go 1/2 inch, 0.5, and we're going to drop it down. Let's drop it back down to the 3 so we can start at the top. I think it's easy. So this guy is going to actually be centered with everything else. So let's just center it all and make it easy. And it doesn't really matter where he is. There. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to sneak, grab that circle there since we've already made a size out of it. And that goes at the top. And what I'm gonna do then is I'm going to grab that point here, and I'm gonna hold shift, and I'm gonna pull it out that way. And you'll say, Jen, that is not a teardrop.
Yeah.
That's not a teardrop, Jen. What are you doing? Okay, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of our guide box. There. So the second thing I'm gonna do, and I mentioned this before, was that you can have points with Bezier curves. So I'm gonna come up in here and say, okay, we're at centered of the place that we wanna be, but you can see that the angle that we have is kind of cutting out this circle. So I'm going to add a point about right here that we're going to start using for the turn instead of trying to turn in from here and just really cutting into that. So the nice thing is if it's being nice to you, it'll actually show you when you're opposite your lines. And I think it's showing me in the other design versus this. We're gonna go with, actually, you know what? We don't have to do that at all. I'm making it harder on myself because I'm just gonna copy it over later. So I'm gonna take this out to remind myself that I'm not working over there. Okay, so bear with me. It's late. No, it's late for me.
I understand.
There it is. There's our anchor point. Okay, so now you can see right now there are no handles. So I'm going to hit Shift C, and you can see it makes this neat little arrow tool. And if you notice, it actually is under the pen tool window. It's the anchor point tool. I generally call it just the handle tool because once you grab it, you can pull handles out.
Ah,
Now you get your curves. So now you can see if we start to angle in to make a teardrop, don't mind the little piece of belly fat that's like floating over there because we're gonna deal with that later. Then you can see that now we're getting closer. Is it the pups?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
he's hearing a doggy outside and he wants to get in on the action.
oh, you should let him. Okay, so what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna pull that down there so that we have a nice curve that's gonna match up to this. So you can kind of see that's forming your teardrop. Do we want it a little tighter in? How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I like it the way it is actually.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna add in, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, I'll mention it right now. If you notice, my pen tool has a plus on it now. And it actually is the plus on the keyboard. The minus turns it into a minus tool, plus tool. And that's all of your anchor points that you can add or add anchor points with the tool just like that.
Gotcha.
I know I did the add anchor point before, but I don't think I mentioned that. So we're going to add a point there, and then we're going to come across here and select this, delete that, and oops, that's the wrong piece. And we're going to delete that. And I know, Marcus, you're sitting over here saying, this is not precision work. What are you doing? You seem to me like
Probably precise enough for an earring.
All right, so we're not gonna discuss the earring size. There. So now I'm gonna take this point and I'm gonna do exactly the same thing as before with my mirror tool. And I'm gonna lean in here and find that center. Hold Alt for that's the pivot, and hit copy.
Cool.
There. So now you have your shape. And the nice thing is you come back up here at the top and you select these 2 points and you use Control J for join, and it makes the top again. Now,
nice.
I personally don't like sharp corners on earrings like that. So I'm going to pull it in a little by grabbing that radius tool. And so you can see, it'll tell you how far you're going. So like right now we're going 0.15, 0.16, all the way to 2. And we can actually round that whole thing off if we wanted to.
Nice.
So I'll say, yeah, I think I like the rounding. We're gonna pull that down a little, just so it's
Mhm.
for a, actually, do I want to pull it down? Yeah, just a little. Still got room for a jump ring, but still feels a little bit more balanced. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna grab this all and make sure it's centered one more time. I'm kind of like one of those people who's like, okay, if I want it centered, I'm gonna have to keep double checking this. Okay, so we ended up with a little bit wider than our circle, so I'm gonna cheat and I'm just gonna do that. That makes our circle. I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna remove the top of the circle, and now you can see we have overlap. Well, overlaps don't really work well.
Hmm.
So what I like to do is I mean, there's ways around it, but what I like to do is I either take one end and I clip it, or I take the other end and clip it. So, you know, you can see right here, I've got this pink that goes all the way up here, and this is pretty much good math, I think. So I'm gonna clip it just above where the pink is.
Hmm.
Oops. There. So then we come in here, we select the 2, and we join them.
I know.
Over here. Oops, I probably should have waited. Let's go back a step. Same thing, we're going to see that the pink's right there. We're gonna come over here, we're gonna clip this just above the pink. Come back over here, remove that point. Just with the delete, this one has a little more room, but it's fine, because it's not gonna affect our curve any. Oops, no, I gotta do that guy again. Okay, and now you might be looking at that saying, you know, there's no need for these 2 extra points either. So if, you know, let's say you're doing a design that has one of these, that's fine if you have an extra 2 points. But if you're doing a design that has, say, 100 of these, then now you have an extra 2 points times 100.
Mhm.
How it adds up, and every point that you have, especially with the Glowforge, is going to make it process slower. So you won't notice it if you're like keeping stuff down, you know, below 1,000, below 2,000, but excuse me. Sorry, I needed to take a drink. But some of these image traces that people do will go in and they will just, you know, just make it furry with points. And then people try to load it and they're not sure what's happening. They don't know why it's stalled. So what I like to do on anything is I'll select this with the black arrow, make sure I have it all selected, and I come up here to Object, Path, and then Simplify. And so the Simplify is great because it'll tell you, it pops up there and says, hey, look at me. You know, tell me if you want to do anything advanced. Otherwise, I looked at this and I saw we had 11 points. And I've actually changed this to 5 points. That's the auto. And then I could say, you know what, I think you can probably get rid of a couple more points. And I can ride these sliders. As you can see, this is multiple points on a curve versus a simpler curve. This is a sharp corner versus a rounded corner. And it actually, if you show preview, then you can see what you're doing to it. So if I decided that I was going to do that and really round it, then you can see that's the original, that's that.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it lets it, I forget where this was this at 80? Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so there is your teardrop or paddle,
Nice.
or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I will save this for you. This will be called,
Thank you.
and I'm actually gonna follow my own advice, and I'm gonna make both of these red now, because both of those are a cut line.
Yeah, nice.
You can play with it. You can add a pattern. You can add another cutout in here. it look like an avocado if you want to, and paint it green.
Cool.
You know?
I
So,
do like avocados.
see? Add a couple pieces of red in there. It looks like a, tomato or a pico de gallo. You've got it going.
There you go, salsa earrings.
See? And all just from sitting here looking at that shape, you're coming up with all those ideas.
Nice.
And that's what I'm talking about, is that you really can get going on something and be like, oh,
Mhm.
I know that I want this. I know that I want that. This is going to be Stephanie earrings from today. And I'm going to save an AI. Since you guys don't have Illustrator, I'm going to keep these as a backup, and I'm going to save you an SVG.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Oh, sure. And yeah, with this, like I said, make sure you message me your email address.
I will.
So it's kind of a
Marcus doesn't have Facebook, but I'll send you both of our email addresses, or you can just email them all to me too.
okay, yeah, yeah, whatever email address you give me, I'll send them all. Well, it's two
Okay.
files.
Perfect, thank you so much.
We come next week, there'll be more.
I'm looking forward to looking through your shop.
Oh, great. Yeah. Let me know if you have any questions about stuff. And, honestly, look through it for inspiration. If you see something you're like, how did you do that? Then just ask me. And I'm more than willing to talk you through it, talk about it. I'm here to, really help people learn versus just here's my stuff. You know what I mean?
That's wonderful. It's great to share your gifts with people.
Oh, yeah. And, I've been doing this 27 years now, so I may as well share some of it with people who are interested, right?
For sure, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
And if you come back next week, like I said, we'll tackle some more for you.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Have a good one.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.